Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very special occasion here because it is exceptionally rare that I actually get to interview somebody else. Normally, as you know, I'm the person on the other side of the chair in the podcast. In fact, I've actually been on this gentleman's podcast, but on this particular occasion, as a world first, the tables are turned and I get to interview and pick the brains of somebody who is not only fascinating, not only intriguing, not only got an incredible story to tell, not only can share a huge amount of value, but is also an amazing and great friend as well that I've had the privilege of being able to meet in places all over the world now. And so it is without any shadow of a doubt that I do not hesitate to say thank you for being here, and you guys following along are in for a treat to welcome the amazing, the wonderful, incredible Mr. Sasha Daygame. Hello, Sasha.
Thanks, Pete. I just want to say, if you were as good at flirting with ladies as you are with your guests, I'll tell you what, you'd have an entourage, you wouldn't be able to travel. It's better this way. It's very
yeah, it's safer. Yeah, keeping me
it's
here.
It's safer. It's a lot less stress. Yeah.
I've got a good face for radio. I get it. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, no, it's a real pleasure here because I think the listeners and the watchers and the viewers are going to get so much out of this because you have quite the story, and I get to meet a lot of different people, and everybody's got a story. We all have, but it's rare that I see someone who has a story that takes a journey that is inspiring in a way that isn't your traditional, like, bad boy does good or overcome adversity to do this. There's so much more richness and depth to your story. And I'm fascinated to start delving a little bit deeper into some of the things that come out of that. Because I think the listeners and the viewers are going to get a real masterclass in understanding how and what goes on in the mind of somebody who's faced with a lot of trauma, a start that most people certainly wouldn't want, but has turned it around in a way that really gives that gift to the world. So on that basis, without intriguing them anymore, give me the Cliff Notes version of Sasha growing up and the kind of the direction of travel that you had initially that got you into the game, the day game, of where most people see you today or know you of because you built quite a following in. Give a little bit of context for people that say, who the hell is this dude?
Who the hell is this dude? Put that on a shirt with my face on it. But I'll be doing this face. Yeah, I had a tough start. I think that's the thing that that just kind of separates me. I'm pretty open about talking about, where I came from. So for me, Russian parents, born in Toronto, Canada, but I had a really tough start. My mom, she basically was like a rageaholic. So if you've ever seen someone who's like manic depressive, she was raging and like yelling and screaming and, just all kinds of psychological abuse, telling me I'm no good, throwing objects at my head, hitting me with belts. I mean, it was torture. It was really, really not fun. And, it was kind of like being in a war because like, if you're actually getting shot at in an actual war, pretty traumatic, but then you're an adult. Imagine being like 5 years old and the person attacking you is your mother. Okay. That was me growing up. So as you can imagine, I put some shields up, I put a lot of blocks on my heart. We're so good at surviving. So I survived it, but boy, was I traumatized. You know what I'm saying? It was no fun. My father ran away from my mother when I was 3. So I basically was just that awkward.
Like most people would have done if they were old enough.
Yeah. I can't blame him. When I met him later in life, I was like, what happened? And he's like, I didn't leave you. I left your mom. And I said, I get it. Cool. So yeah, she was like a super control freak. I don't know if anyone can relate. If I made a mistake playing piano, guess what? I get beat up and yelled at and told, you shouldn't make mistakes. You must be perfect at all times. So it wasn't a fun childhood. So going through all of that, and ultimately I ended up, I was always the weird kid, I was just always that weird shy kid with no confidence, kids didn't want to play with me. I had like maybe one friend and, I just had a really rough start. I got a comedy routine where I could do 20 minutes talking about all the funny parts of my childhood, but I won't bother. But ultimately I ended up running away from home at 15. I was homeless for a month. It was a very cold winter in Toronto that winter. And on my 16th birthday was a really happy birthday because the youth hostels consider you an adult at 16. So rather than sleeping in buses or underneath, whatever I could find or basements or whatever, they had to take me in. So I got a roof, I got food, I got $5 a day spending money. So that was like the greatest birthday ever, going into a youth hostel in Toronto at age 16. I was so happy, happiest person in the world. And after that childhood and that, that birthday, yeah, all these people complaining, oh, life's so hard, it's so difficult. It's like, it's not that difficult, actually. You know, it's like, you know, that really set me up for, you know, for life in a lot of ways. So when I was 17 years old, I started doing stand-up comedy. That was, I just had this internal knowing. I saw a guy on TV telling jokes, and I just kind of had this little voice in my head, and I think a lot of people get that voice, that just said, A, you're funnier than this guy, and B, you're going to do stand-up comedy. And I listened to the voice. I signed up to an open mic night. I started doing comedy. It went great, and I just dedicated years and years and years of my life to doing stand-up, which I'm very glad I did, because that was a game changer. That's a skill that definitely came in handy. But as you can imagine, growing up, you know, the big thing I had that was just killing me was just my inability to connect with women. You know, I'm a young man. You're a teenager. You're in your 20s. You want a girlfriend, right? That's just the thing. You know, you want a girlfriend, and I was absolutely unable to connect with women, because the only woman I loved was this monster who was like kicking the shit out of me all the time. So how could I really trust? How could I love? How could I have a normal relationship with the feminine? I couldn't. So I was very, very frustrated. And yeah, I ended up like a lot of guys. You know, I learned about this pickup and seduction community that teaches you, you know, like you got to wear these clothes and do these things and tell these stories. And it was a lot of kind of crap about, you know, manipulating women and being dishonest to try and basically get women into bed, which didn't resonate with me whatsoever. I could tell it was just fake. I didn't like going to bars and clubs. I didn't like alcohol. All that stuff was just garbage to me. So I did something a little bit revolutionary. I decided I was going to just go on the streets, go into coffee shops, go into malls, go wherever. And if I saw a woman I really found attractive, I was just going to be honest and tell her. I was going to walk up to her and say, hey, you look amazing. I just want to get to know you. What's your name? Something along those lines. And I started doing that, and it was difficult. Believe me, I was terrified, Pete. I was terrified of, I mean, I had no self-confidence, very little going on. You know, like, sure, I could do stand-up comedy, but coming up to a beautiful woman and being honest and putting it out there, that's terrifying. You know, like for most guys, that's absolutely terrifying. And there's a reason that most guys get drunk in a pub before they get the courage to actually, you know, talk to somebody, right? There's a reason for that, because they don't have the courage. But I started doing it. I pushed through. And amazingly, it just started happening. Some women weren't interested, but some were. And within a couple of months, I just started dating lots of women. I started getting women in my life. And this whole chapter of my life began, where I ended up having so much success that guys started asking me, like, hey man, like, how come you're dating all these girls? I don't understand, like, what's happening. And I just started teaching guys this system. And, you know, it was called Daygame. It kind of took off. I put up a video just, you know, teaching this stuff and showing what I was doing. That went viral around 2011, and it kind of became a trend. And guys all around the world just started they just started doing the same thing. They're like, okay, if this guy who's not dressed that good, isn't dressing like he's rich or important or anything, just a normal dude with a normal shirt who actually had a little bit of a gut at the time, not even in particularly good shape, this guy's going around and getting phone numbers from gorgeous women. Well, maybe we can do it too. So it ended up just inspiring a lot of people to get out there and just be themselves and, you know, stop being fake. And that just blew up. And, you know, and I was just so passionate about it, because I went from a guy who was so frustrated and unable to just connect with the opposite sex to being able to connect with the opposite sex. Not on a very deep level initially, but at least enough to go and start hanging out and having dates and, you know, having relationships, which was great. So that really transformed my life. And for me, that was the way that I got in this self-development. It was that pain around not being able to connect with the feminine. That's really what got me into it. And from there, it was just, it was just that. Once you get into it, once you really start working on yourself in one area of your life and you realize, wow, you can change and you can get better and you can really transform your life, inevitably it started getting into all these other areas. You know, in 2009, I realized, I just made some realizations about health. I was like, anyway, why are they putting fluoride in the water? Why are they promoting food that isn't healthy? Why are they using chemicals that they know are bad for people? Like, why are all these people getting sick? So I started to really wake up to the world and, you know, kind of what was going on. So I started working on my health. I started making serious money, you know, just because I was teaching this and I was so passionate about it, and people were following me on YouTube, and you know, so it just naturally kind of evolved, and it kept evolving, and I was having big dating events for men and all this kind of stuff, and then at a breaking point around 2015, I'd been so in that culture of just like, you know, going out and teaching the courses, and you know, and it really was, a lot of it was still about teaching guys how to pick up, and it just felt seedy, and even though I was doing it very authentically and it's like all about being yourself, I got to a point where I didn't want to be going out there all the time and just teaching guys all the time, just focusing on this one aspect. Go out there and talk to women. Go out there and talk to women. I just got tired of it, and I knew there was so much more that I wanted to work on myself, and so much more I could bring to the world. So I announced to the world, that's it. I'm retiring. I'm not teaching these courses anymore. These are my last ones. And in that moment, I went on a huge self-development journey. I founded the Infinite Man Summit, which we'll be chatting a little bit about, just helping men, you know, find their passion and purpose and just get all the 4 core areas handled: health, wealth, relationships, purpose. And I myself went down the spiritual, the epic, most crazy spiritual journey ever, which you were a part of, because you know, a couple of years ago, you were the one who said to me, "Hey, go and read Power versus Force." And even though I'd had the book and I'd read a bit of it, I didn't read the whole book. I didn't really commit to it. And when you actually said, "Mate, you got to read this book," I really read the book, and that was a couple of years ago, about 2 years ago now. And then I read your book as well, and my life just went absolutely, like, when you really start focusing on an area, it is mind-blowing what can happen. And the awakenings I've had then, and the clarity, and just really discovering who I am and my purpose here, beyond words, Pete. And you know, when you have those experiences, it's just unbelievable. So I'm just in such a different place where it's just, I just understand myself and what I'm doing here and what the world is, what this hologram is, and nothing makes me happier just to help people really discover, like, who they are, what are they doing here, and just this really is an amazing hologram, and it is exactly what we create, literally. Like, there's no, I'm not exaggerating. Whatever you choose for it to be, and whatever you put your intention to, and whatever you put your effort towards, that is exactly what your experience will be. And the rules are the same for everybody. That's the thing. So it really just comes down to waking up in the dream and saying, okay, I'm creating all this, and so let's be conscious about it. Let's create a paradise and a heaven, rather than an unconscious, random kind of semi-nightmare, which is, you know, the state most people are living in. So that's where I'm at. I've never been having this much fun. I've never been so joyful, so happy, so committed to just being the most epic version of myself and helping everyone else do that. And that's why I'm so excited to have you as a friend and have you speak at my events, because you're on the same mission. You're just, you know, you've got your skill set, I've got my skill set, but we're just doing the same work, man. And it's so awesome to have you be a part of it.
No, thank you. And yeah, it's, as I said, quite the journey. There's a fair bit to unpack there. I'd like to sort of dive in a little bit, if you may, because yeah, you hear a lot of people that say, "Oh, yeah, I can't be successful because my mum was this. I can't be successful because my dad was that." And yeah, the whole "to me" aspect of blaming other people literally gets blown out of the water when you see a reference for it. And I used to talk about, you know, success a lot of the time is determined by the shape of your butt. Yeah, because most people say that, well, yeah, I would have the life I want, but yeah, my mother was abusive. Whereas, yeah, people like yourself turn and say, well, yes, my mother was abusive, but I still found a way. And it's all about how you use your butt at that level. But when you're talking about kids and sort of the age of sub-7, where we're so open to unconscious impressionism, because we don't get to use critical thinking because we've not developed it. You know, the brain literally has a puberty around 7 years old, and up to that point, your evolution thinks, well, parents are obviously have hormones and biochemicals to take care of their kids, so the kid's going to be taken care of. So they can't think for themselves. They haven't got the experience. So up to 7 years old, you get programmed unconsciously, and that usually sets up the direction and the vector for most people's lives. And that's why it's so empowering to see what you've done through there. Yes, you're living with the residual aspect of that. Yes, you were confused. And there's a big part as well, which I'd love to see your take on, about your mom. Is your mom still around?
No, she actually took her own life in around 1998, when I was around 18 years old, actually. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
that's part of the story. That's the dark part. Sometimes I mention it, sometimes not. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where she don't want to rage out anymore in terms of her source of love, and therefore so painful. People with suicidal tendencies obviously have no compelling future, and if her son, who's a source of venting and rage and therefore connection in a very dysfunctional way, decided to leave, and she got nobody else to be able to stick around, then you can understand a lot of the time why people would make that kind of decision, especially if they've got the energy to do it, which rage will give you.
And that's what I had to heal from. It's like the only woman that I absolutely loved abandoning me, and then of course that set up a pattern of me falling madly in love with women who would do the same thing, and then eventually I had to do the healing work to get out of that. Something you said that's absolutely fascinating, and this is something I discovered recently, and I mentioned it to you briefly when we were at your event in Poland. That was a great time, by the way. but I did a little bit more muscle testing on it. And I know people who follow you probably know about power versus force. I would imagine that they do. Otherwise, they haven't really been paying attention to your videos. But I did this. This is absolutely fascinating. I was calibrating. I did this with my friend here, and I did it for myself. I calibrated what is our level of consciousness for me personally, when you're born in your first breath. And for me, it was like 985. And then on your first birthday, it was like hot, 930. And then next birthday, it was like 875. Then it was like 800, then 750, then 700, then 650. So literally, we come in fully enlightened masters as pure consciousness. Absolutely, literally God consciousness, universal consciousness presence. And guess what happens? Around age 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on who, you drop below 500, and then you just keep plunging. Guess what happens? All the conditioning comes in. You're a man, you're a woman, you're good, you're smart, you're not so smart. We're rich, they're poor, or we're not so rich. Whatever, 1,000,001 labels, the conditioning, the trauma, all of it from society, from your parents, all of it kicks in. So for example, my friend here, her level of consciousness dropped to like below 100 for most of her life. Then when she really started doing the work, just about a year and a half ago, it literally went this, boom. Now she's in the high 500s. Unbelievable. For myself,
for a second.
Unbelievable. And my chart and her chart are both the same. You start out fully enlightened. It takes a nosedive. And if you do the healing work, then guess what? You can get back to your original state. Full enlightenment.
That's the thing I want to communicate to the people, because just to give some context to people watching it, just thinking, whoa, hang on a minute. Most people have no clue what consciousness is. It's a 13-letter word that is an abstraction that you cannot actually intellectualize. It's the mind's label for trying to grasp a conceptual level of something that can only be experienced. So when we, for those listening that haven't read Power versus Force, it's basically provides a tool where you map out levels of consciousness, for want of a better phrase, that allow you to gauge, just like the height of a tree. There's no difference. It's not a good tree or a bad tree. A tall tree is not better or worse than a short tree. There's just different expressions of their own potential. And we come in at, obviously, our fullest expression of potentiality, because we're born, we haven't had any of the negative programming. As you say, around about 7 years old, we dive, because now we can start putting critical thinking in, which then validates or allows us to buy into a lot of the stuff that we're programmed with at that point. So if you take on board what you said, the best message there is you were born perfect, therefore there's nothing else to prove. And unfortunately, most people don't know that. They think that they're born imperfect. They buy into most of consumerism, which says you're not perfect unless you buy my shit. And therefore, they spend their rest of their life trying to prove something that they can't prove because they already were. And hence why most people get screwed up. But one of the things, especially coming back to your mum for a second, that I think is important here to understand for people is that there is a big difference between a person and a person's behavior. Because your behavior is influenced by your belief system, your level of consciousness, your cultural beliefs, your emotional events, your free will and ability to express it, your willingness to do the work or not. All of that stuff will lead to your behavior, but who you are outside of this stardust meat suit is perfect. You are amazing. Your mother was amazing. The behavior that she was exhibiting was exceptionally dysfunctional, destructive, unloving, and catastrophic. But who she was as a soul was so much in pain. In the physical expression, chose to go back to being the soul. So when people listen to, oh my God, I can understand why he's that way, because it's not. You need to separate the person from the person's behavior, and then you can start to really work on yourself, because you don't have the excuse anymore that I'm this way because. And you're a great example of that. And it was always going to happen based upon, I believe, the level of consciousness that you came in at. It's natural. Acting experience in previous movies that we bring to this movie. We don't remember the words in the previous movies or plot lines. Why? Because that would confuse us in this movie. But we bring the acting experience that we get. And again, most people want love, as it's the ultimate expression of who we are, but they end up settling for something much less as a poor substitute, especially if you feel you've been abandoned, as if it was somehow our parents' job to be a parent forever, and that they should never abandon us, because it's going to happen at some point. So,
Yep.
yeah, what would you say was the tipping point that allowed you to access the courage to not settle for the identity that most people would have been happy to hide behind as victim, but actually go out and take chances to risk rejection again on stage in front of people, in the streets in front of women? What was the point, or was there any demarcation that allowed you, a resource or a belief system, something that allowed you to say, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm still going to put myself in a vulnerable enough position where I can feel what I've been avoiding since I was a kid or scared of, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It was a couple of times there where it wasn't easy. Like I remember the first time I was going to do stand-up comedy. 17 years old, absolutely clueless, no people skills, no self-confidence. Brutal. It was just a really brutal time. But that little voice inside that was like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is who you are. You got to go do this. It was like this call, and I think we all feel that call. Even when we're kids, sometimes we know we want to do this, we want to do that. We all have that little voice. The problem is usually there's another voice that comes in and says, nah, you can't do that. That's not realistic. It's not going to work out. Or we're just scared and we make up some excuse not to do it. And I remember just making the decision. I remember I went into this one comedy club and I was hanging around and this woman just said, hey, do you want to sign up to do stand-up? It's like she knew that I was there for that reason. And I said, yeah. I said, how long is the wait if I sign up today? She goes, 6 weeks. And I thought, I just knew in that moment, it's like, yes or no. You're going to say you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. And I looked there and I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I got 6 weeks. I'm going to do it. I came here because I wanted to do it. I'm going to do it. So I went, I had 6 weeks to come up with some jokes. So I go to my buddy that we joke around with and I'm like, okay, what's funny? Here we go. And I came up with the jokes. I borrowed one or two jokes that were similar to other comedians' jokes. Hey, I was 17. But I came up with some stuff. And, when the day came, I knew it. It's like, am I going to listen to this voice that is telling me like, this is what you're supposed to do with your life? Or are you going to chicken out because you're scared? And I just knew I'm not going to listen. I'm going to do it. So it took some courage and I just did it. But as soon as I got up on that stage and I told that first joke and a couple people laughed, the rest of it flew by. I had a great time and my whole life changed. And that one time where I just decided I'm going to do this scary thing, even though there's, I'm shitting it. I just did it. It was amazing. I was funny. Another guy was funny. And immediately she's like, yeah, you should come back next week. That was great. And that was it. I was hooked. And once you take that step and you get the feedback and it's okay and you survive it, your level, it just boom, it just takes you to that next level of confidence and self-belief. So that was really a stepping stone for the rest of my life. Just that one moment of deciding to push through the fear and just go with what my true self, what my heart and soul were telling me I really truly wanted to do. It was really as simple as that.
Outstanding. And again, it's such a lesson for people because you hear it all the time, feel the fear and do it anyway. And the fears you don't face become your limits. But that's all intellectualization. Nothing can prepare you for actually having to do it. And as you heard me say, in fact, I put it on the first page of the book, theory doesn't cover the price of admission to the higher levels of greatness. And you are going to be tested because we're here in Earth School. You are going to be tested because life is a growth-centric experience, not a comfort-centric experience. And when we start to wake up to that, we realize that the next biggest day in a person's journey of emotional maturity is the day they actually become okay not being liked. And so they don't try to fitting everybody else's perception of their approval strategies or not wanting to offend people in case they don't love you anymore. You can actually live from an authentic place. And what I've seen from yourself, Sasha, you're probably one of the most authentic people I've ever met. You have a drive to serve, which is great, but you are absolutely independent of the good opinion of other people. You don't need it. You don't care about it. And you realize that everyone's in their own movie anyway. So, if somebody thinks bad of me, that's a reflection of what they feel of themselves, not a reflection of who you are. And to own that congruently is so refreshing to see. You help guys get to a place of social freedom. What kind of transformations do you see for the least amount of effort it takes? Because it isn't that difficult. It only seems that at the beginning, right?
Yeah, I've seen some crazy things. So for me, that was the first moment where I just pushed through and had this, pretty profound shift. And then years later, when I started teaching men, hey, you can't go out there and express yourself and meet people you want to meet. What I realized was the thing that was holding people back the most, it was just the worry of what are other people going to think. And it wasn't even just like, what if this woman rejects me? That was part of it. But like, what if somebody sees me come up to a beautiful woman and then they see her reject me? What will people think? You know, it's like, you don't even know these people. You're in a Starbucks, you know, who gives a shit what people think in a Starbucks or whatever. So what I noticed happening, it was when I started teaching men and actually putting them through, and this, again, this sounds radical, and I shared this at your event and people, you know, people liked it. I started actually taking guys through specific exercises where I would put them in situations that were challenging on purpose. So even before getting to that point where they would walk up to a woman and introduce themselves, I would just make them do things that they knew for sure were going to get them judged. People are going to look at them funny. They're going to get weird reactions. For example, walking up to a random couple on the street, starting a conversation, but then, you know, picking your nose the entire time and making eye contact and just looking at people like, yeah, you know, I heard this movie was, where's the movie theater? I really, you know, and just being absolutely disgusting and having people just look at you like, you know, you're there like wiping your booger on your shirt and, you know, eating your booger, and just everyone's like, people are gonna look at you and be like, oh my God. And after they're absolutely disgusted, you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna say, anyway, thanks a lot, really appreciate it. And you go for a handshake. And just to see people go, I'm not gonna shake your hand. And also seeing that some people, even though you have booger on your hand, they'll shake your hand anyway because they're that programmed to do that. That's an interesting lesson right there. So I just started making people do absolutely wacky things where they would just face that little voice, that ego in the mind that's like, no, you can't do this. You're gonna die. People are gonna judge you. And after literally a few hours doing these exercises, the guys would just become totally fearless. They would absolutely just have this realization of like, it changes nothing. Even though it feels like you're going to die, just like when you go do stand-up comedy, just like you do anything where you might lose or you might get rejected or you might, you know, mess it up, whatever. When you just go do it, it feels so good when you realize actually nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Even you could be running around in a pair of ridiculous shorts with ice cream on your face, walking up to people, starting conversations, and people just think it's funny and think you're weird, and nothing happens. And so what started happening for the guys, they would go through that part of the course, and then they would do the dating part of the course. And once they really had that social freedom and that confidence and that realization that, hey, you know, I'm okay and I can do whatever I want to and nobody really cares, they wouldn't just go on and become fearless in their dating lives and just, you know, start dating amazing women and fixing that. Their entire lives started changing because you can't be fearless in one area of your life and just not take any chances and still be a non-chance taker in other areas. It doesn't make sense. So what started happening was I would just, you know, 6 months later, I'd get an email from a guy and they'd be like, Sasha, you won't believe it. So not only do I have an amazing girlfriend, I'm living in Thailand and I started this business and I'm making enough money out here. You know, I'm making maybe whatever, $1,500 a month. But hey, in Thailand, that's a lot. I'm doing great. And I don't have to work anymore. I just got this thing and I have this beautiful woman I met and life is amazing. And now I'm going to start another business and I'm doing what I always wanted. And it's unbelievable. And this kept happening all the time. Guys would quit their jobs or they'd end up finally going and applying for the job they didn't think they could get, but because they felt so good and confident because of their new skill set, they'd end up getting it. And they'd email me going, I got the job I always wanted. I just didn't think I could get because I just went for it. And I was confident and I just knew I could do it. And I just did it, even though I wasn't qualified for it. I went in there and I made a great impression and they just gave me the job. And it's three times the money I was making 6 months ago. I don't know what to do with all this money. And I'm like, okay, cool. And it just kept happening over and over and over. Hey, I'm living in Bali. Yeah, I'm teaching, what is it? When you go under the water, you know, scuba diving. Yeah, I'm a scuba diving instructor. And I make lots of money and having a great time and I don't have to work. Well, how did you do that? Well, I always wanted to be one. And I just did not believe I could have a life as a scuba diver because it would just be too good to be true. And after doing a course, I realized I can do whatever the fuck I want to. Nobody's going to stop me. So I did the course, went down here, started a business, and that's my job now. And it's unbelievable. And I could never imagine this would have been possible. And I'm just like, okay. And this is normal. This is now just normal. This is just what happens when you face fear directly and you just crush it and you attain that social freedom to express yourself, to go for what you want to just be you, to listen to that heart, that little inner voice that's telling you, this is the thing that's going to make you happy. This is the thing you really want to be doing. This is you. This is who you are. When you start following that voice, everything comes into play. It's not just that you're going for it and it's happening because, you know, it's when you raise your level of vibration and you feel so good and you're just pouring that love out into the universe because you're full of it. The universe is just a reflection. All of this hologram is just a reflection. So everything starts coming to you. The partner that you want, the money that you need, the career that you want, all these opportunities just start showing up because you're just, again, it's just a reflection of your level. Whatever you're putting out there is what comes back. So if you go around going, oh, I can't take chances, I can't do it, nobody likes me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you're going to keep finding evidence for you're not good enough, nobody likes you, and your life is mediocre. Okay, but as soon as you go the other side It's wild, man. The things that happen when you really go for it, absolutely wild. Unbelievable.
Absolutely, and it's just such a great physical reminder of the fact that our outer world follows our inner world. And so many people are looking through the wrong end of the telescope, thinking, well, when I fix the outer world, then I'll give myself permission to be happy. When I go change something on the current movie set, right, then I'll try to influence the future coming scenes. No, it's never going to happen that way. You work on you first. You're the star of your own movie, and you're either, say, acting by default, or you get to write and direct. But trying to manipulate the stuff on set in order to change the script is not going to work. You need to align yourself with a better version of the script internally, and then the script writers will do their job and rearrange everything in the outer world in ways that just, you could never have imagined before. And the number one thing every single time that is the stopper of that, I don't care how it's dressed up in what circumstance, it always just comes down to fear, and usually the fear that we're not enough, and therefore ultimately we won't be loved. And so you conquer that, you conquer the primary fear of a human being, you live fearless at a completely different level of the game. And there's no substitute. And again, you've come over here and spent time with me in Tenerife. We've hung out in Mexico. We've hung out in London. Yeah, it's like Poland. Yeah, it's just a different energy when you're with somebody who is not driven by the need for approval, the need for recognition, significance in any way, is playing the game on their terms and living life from a place of being able to make love to the moment and add value to the world, give their gift, and just rock and roll. I mean, who wouldn't want a movie like that? And why would you not pay such a small price of facing your fear, which is a ghost, in order to be able to give yourself even a shot at that? It's crazy. What's the biggest excuses you see most people come up with that stop them from even being able to do that?
Which part?
In terms of living fearlessly.
Oh boy, God, the ones that we get the most. So many. I mean, generally when it's the guys that I know could benefit from, working with me, for example, and I'm just like, what's stopping you? They really don't believe on some level that it could work for them. It's really weird. It's like it doesn't. I've been doing this for 10 years. Doesn't matter. It's like some part of them just doesn't believe that they could enter this completely different reality where they could just live fearlessly, do what they want to do, follow their intuition, and it's all going to work out because it's so foreign. Just to last night. Was it last night? Yeah, last night. I was with my cousin. I got some relatives here in New York, and we were eating, and I was just talking about the mutual friend, me and my cousin, who's somebody we know. And he just mentioned to me casually that I asked about this guy, and he just said, yeah, that guy, he really wanted to be, an actor. And I said, how's it going? He goes, yeah, he's a waiter now, and he's looking for work. And I was like, is he still trying to be an actor? And he's like, no, he just gave up on it. And I was like, but that was his passion. He loved act. That was his thing. That's what made him happy. He was all about it. How could he have just given up completely? And he just looked at me and he said, Sasha, don't you realize most people just give up on their dream? That's normal. Don't you realize that? And I had to take a moment and pause and just go, shit, I guess you're right. But it was so foreign to me. It was weird because I just went for my dream. When it was comedy, I went for it. When it was dating, I went for it. And now it's helping people. And I just do it. I can't. It's weird for me to accept that most people have just given up on that thing that they know they want to be doing in the world. It's weird. Maybe I'm delusional. I guess I'm absolutely in my own reality. But I really had to take a moment and go, wow, people really have quit. That's fucked.
It is the standard. It's the standard based on the average predominant level of consciousness. It's standard based upon society's level of conformism. But you're an outlier, an example of that. And sometimes we have to be reminded by contrast frames. And again, the contrast, you go from infinite pain to infinite man. Right? And tell me about the Infinite Man Summit, because that's where we first met, and back in Lisbon, and then obviously over in Mexico. And I know this is something you're proud of. It's really designed to be able to share this journey of self-actualization with men in a way that actually self-actualizes them. And there's very few people doing it in the way you do, as effective as you do. And I'm really keen to see what you want to share with the viewers about why the Infinite Man Summit and what it actually does, and what can you tell us about it, and why we should all be there.
Sure. Yeah, it's a hell of an experience. I didn't realize it would be as profound as it was going to be. I knew it was going to be good, but every event, I'm always just blown away. First by just the quality of people that show up. It's really men who are really serious about becoming, like really working on their shit. Like they're not running from it. They're really willing to do the work. So they're showing up there to meet other men who are serious about this and to build the life of their dreams without any excuses. They're willing to do it. So whether that's getting the inspiration and the clarity of like, what is it they really want to do with their life? Some guys already know, and they're showing up to meet people to work with, to learn more strategies. Some people just want to, some people just want to work on their health. Some people want to work on their relationships. But it's like, it doesn't really matter what aspect of your life you want to work on. There's people, we always have speakers and experts in all of the areas. So everyone's in a different part of their journey. And that's the thing I've really realized about personal development. We're all, and spiritual journey as well. Like we're all on our own unique journey. And it's very, very, it's very important, especially for us as teachers, just to respect where people are at, but just give them the tools and the information and that love and that support so they can themselves work on whatever area is the one they need to. You know, it's easy just to go, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. We have no idea where people are at. All we can do is love them and provide that support and just really be there for them and give them the knowledge and the information and the inspiration and really just that unconditional love, that belief. Like when guys show up, I'm just sharing who I am and I'm just sharing my story. And, you know, coming from where I came from, no connections, no nothing, no special treatment, just a shitty situation. If I can do it and get out of there, you can do anything. And I know you can do anything because you're me and I'm you. And there's no separation. The separation is just, you know, it's an illusion, frankly. Everybody can do it. If one of us can do it, all of us can do it. We all have the same gifts. We all have, well, different gifts, but we all have the same potential. So it's just a place where people come and they just love on each other and they support each other. And it's not just a boring thing like you just sit there and you watch talks. It gets down and dirty, like your day one from Poland, where you really got people, you know, really working on themselves, looking at their stuff and working on their stuff. It's really a mix of that. So there's exercises where people get into their hearts, get out of the mind. And we're so trained to be thinking and all the time processing, to get this to slow down and connect with our heart and actually feel the love that's in there, to connect and be present with your brothers right there at the event. We do some vulnerability exercises. They're really freaking powerful. So we really get people feeling and connecting. The consciousness goes up at these events. You do not walk out the same as when you walked in. You come in as an individual, you walk out as a brother with the support of the group and with a plan and the inspiration and the love behind you to just go and be who you are. Like I want people to come to this event and leave just going, okay, I am ready to take life by the balls and just do it and just live, like really, really live your potential. Like it breaks my heart when I see people just wasting this amazing, even though, you know, I believe in reincarnation and then we just keep coming back and learning and there's no end and blah, blah, blah. But still, even to throw away one opportunity, one life like this, to be here at this time and not to take advantage and to really evolve and just do everything you can to bring yourself the most peace, the most joy, the most fulfillment. Why not? You know, why not choose that life rather than the life most people unfortunately choose, which is just survival, mediocrity, and just kind of getting by. You're not here to get by. You're here to thrive. And that's what this event is about, choosing to thrive.
100%. And again, having been to two Infinite Man Summit events now already myself and seen that transformation, how real it is. And again, very similar to my own events for the Sage Business School, where people come in at a certain level, they have absolutely no clue what's about to happen. They've got an idea, but you can only experience transformation. You can acquire information, but transformative events, which is why I love speaking at your event so much, be able to see those guys. And I'll be honest, when I first came and I was first invited, I thought I was just going to show up to a load of low conscious pickup guys I was going to have to slap around. And I was blown away by the level of integrity, the level of authenticity, the willingness, the vulnerability, and people walking out of that event on completely different life paths with a tool set that'll set them up for a completely different movie. And it's credit to you, my friend, but blown away. So tell me, where can people find out more?
It's not too tricky. I'm sure you'll link to it, but it's theinfinitemansummit.com. So everything is there. It's October 25th to 27th in Los Angeles. There is some training happening after, but all the information will be on the website. Tickets are not expensive. They slowly go up as we get closer to the event, but it's like a couple $100. We price it so we really don't want to exclude people, so we make it very reasonable to attend the event. And yeah, it's just going to be one of those magical ones. We usually do them in Europe. This is the first one in the States. So yeah, it's just going to be magical. My amazing people are coming, like Peter Sage. My couple of my spiritual teachers are going to be there, like really high level beings, you will feel the love. just, you will feel the love in the room. Again, you cannot even explain it. When you're around really, really high level beings, you feel it. You feel the energy in the room. You feel the love. Your thoughts and fears from lower levels of consciousness, they literally cannot exist as you raise your consciousness. They come up and they kind of burst. That's what's going to be happening at this event. People will raise themselves up. You don't have a choice. If you're there, you're going to be affected. You're in the field. You're in the love field. That's what it is.
Law of conformity. It's the 95% law. You can't circumvent it. But yes, no, so InfiniteManSummit.com, and it's in Los Angeles. I'm going to be there. You're going to be there. Some other amazing, cool people are going to be there.
Amazing.
And we're going to be on this journey of transformation together. No, I'm excited. It's always great to be able to get out stateside as well. But yeah, any final words you want to say to people that are listening in?
Yeah, just, a lot of people freeze up because they think they have to do some huge, big life changes to change their life around. It's like, no, go out there and do one little thing today that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. Even if that's just, saying hello to 3 people, just walking by 3 strangers and saying, hey, good afternoon, good morning. And the next day, take it to the next level. Maybe say something that doesn't make sense. Say, Merry Christmas, Happy Halloween, and the next day, maybe give some people some compliments. Say, hey, great walk. Hey, I like your hat. Hey, you seem cool. High five, whatever. You do that for a week. You go out there and spend 5 minutes a day for a week, just a little bit pushing your comfort zone. At the end of that week, you will not be the same person. Your outlook on life will not be the same. Your mind will start going, well, wait a minute. I wouldn't have come up to strangers and high-fived them or come up and given them some random people candy a week ago, but now it doesn't really seem like a big deal. What else could I do that I thought I couldn't do? Maybe I can, become the yoga instructor that I wanted to, or maybe I can start learning guitar, which I've been putting off for the last 10 years, or whatever else it is, or maybe I can start learning that language I wanted to. Push your comfort zone. That's all it is. That's what separates the people who go and they have amazing experiences, crazy lives, crazy businesses, crazy dating lives. They're pushing their comfort zone. They don't run away from discomfort. They lean into discomfort. And that's what we talked about at the event. All my life courses, my book I've been working on for a little bit too long. It's going to be all about that, destroying that little voice that's preventing you from going out there and pushing yourself, that's preventing you from going out there and experiencing the totality of what is possible in this human incarnation. Do the things that are uncomfortable. Most people don't. And if you become one of the people that do, the world will be yours. I kid you not. Just start today. Go out there and do something that's 1% out of your comfort zone. 1%. 6 months from now, you won't recognize yourself. That's 1%. It.
And that 1% can start with InfiniteManSummit.com and just seeing what's on there, because that you'll tune in. You'll find out if that's something you want to do or not. Yeah, you and I, we're not pushy guys. We make opportunities for people. And I've got no doubt that the right people will be listening to that to make the right decision to come and change their life at the right time.
I hope so. Whoever needs to be there is always there.
Sasha, brother, it's been amazing. You're over there in Central Park, New York, me over here in Tenerife off the west coast of Africa. And through the magic of technology, reaching people all over the world. Always an inspiration, my friend. I can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks' time. And it's been awesome to connect. Let's do this again sometime.
Oh, we shall. Pete, I've said it before. You're one of my favorite humans currently incarnated on planet Earth. And I love you.
Hello, bro.
I'll see you soon, my friend.